If you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So we'll begin with correspondence.
Yes, so we received one resignation letter from Matthew Fox, resigning from the planning board. And then we received an email from Bran Doherty Johnson and the rest of the housing board members, and they wanted this read into the record. So the email says, "Dear Supervisor and town board members, I'm contacting you on behalf of the members of the Community Housing Board. We were all extremely disappointed that the town's newest board member and former CHB chairwoman, Elizabeth Hanley, was not named as one of the town board liaisons to CHB. Ms. Hanley was an extremely dynamic chair, providing dedication, innovation, focus, and drive that resulted in finally moving housing to a reality. Her knowledge, contacts, and commitment have been and would continue to be essential to moving very complicated matters forward. As such, we respectfully request that the town board reconsider this decision so that Ms. Hanley can continue to be a full participant in CHB meetings and activities moving forward. Please also understand in making this request, the CHB in no way means to denigrate the current liaisons and their commitment to housing. They are both wonderful and have been quite helpful to the process. Nonetheless, this is a unique situation given Ms. Hanley's history, connections, and knowledge, all attributes that at this time we believe should be maximized. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Bran Doherty Johnson, Bill Mastro, Peter McCracken, Mark Mobius, Espen Siegel." And that's it.
Okay. Does anybody have comments to make on the resolutions that we're going to read? Nobody has any comment. We can get started. Liz?
All right. Resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing be held on February 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled "A Local Law Amending Chapter 8, a Code of Ethics." And then this is all posted. I think that's it.
It's on the website and it's available at the town clerk's office.
Yeah. So resolved.
Make a motion.
Oh, make a motion, sorry.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Whereas Chad Pike of 6th Avenue has applied to the town of Shelter Island for a permit to construct a 5-foot by 30-foot ramp up to a 5-foot by 100-foot dock with a 5-foot by 27-foot L section at the seaward end, a 70-foot splash board system, 1 2-pile dolphin, 3 ladders, and 1 bench per plan submitted by Costello Marine, dated January 9th, 2024, and stamped by New York State DEC, approved on January 18th, 2024. And whereas a public hearing was closed on December 1st, 2025, with written comment from the applicant until December 22nd of 2025, when the public hearing was closed, and whereas the town board wishes to reopen the hearing for further review, now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter on Monday, March 16th, 2026, in the Shelter Island Town Hall for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the application. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Whereas Sylvester Manor Educational Farm, Inc. has submitted a site plan review application for 80 North Ferry Road, designated as tax map number 708-1-5.10 for interior exterior renovations to the existing 1737 Manor House, including the removal of a 1960 cabana addition at north elevation, upgrades to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire detection suppression systems, a new AI sanitary system, construction of multiple ADA access points, installation of walkways, and landscaping, and the relocation of a generator, diesel fuel tank, heat pump, condenser unit, and transformer, Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 109-10 L of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held on Monday, March 16th, 2026 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter prevailing time in the Shelter Island Town Hall, 38 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York, 11964, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas Bootsy LLC, 85 Shore Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 700-13-1-18, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit for proposed excavation, regrading, and planting within 100 feet from wetland. Resolved that the town board finds that the project meets the standards enumerated in Town Code, Section 129-5. As inter alia, the proposed project will not create a risk of impairing the function and value of the wetland and buffer, diminish any wetland in size unless the approving authority finds that the proposed activity is water dependent or requires access to the wetland as a central element of the basic function and will result in the minimum possible alteration and impairment of the wetland. Negatively impact the quantity and quality of groundwater, create a net increase in the risk of runoff, and be it further resolved that the town board further finds that there are no practicable alternatives which allow the project to be constructed outside the regulated area, and the applicant has submitted information to describe alternative site locations and configurations sufficient for a determination that the proposed work and location would have a less adverse environmental impact than any other practicable alternative. And the applicant will voluntarily implement within 3 months of the issuance of the permit adequate mitigation measures that will contribute to the protection and enhancement of wetlands and wetland benefits. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby approves the issuance of a wetlands permit for the proposed excavation, regrading, and planting within 100 feet of wetlands at 85 Shore Road in accordance with the site plan, planting plan, and revegetation prepared by Buttercup Design Group dated January 9, 2026 on the following conditions. Number one, in addition to the 25-foot vegetative buffer, proposed the applicant shall submit a revised site plan that provides for an additional 25 no-mow zone on the western side of the pond that corresponds approximately to the 17-foot contour line on the above referenced site plan. The proposed vegetative buffer and no-mow zone shall allow for a 4-foot wide cleared access path to allow for access to the pond and shore road. Additionally, the revised site plan shall replace the additional proposed junipers on the north end of the property with red cedars. Number two, the town board notes that the above referenced site plan was submitted without a stamp or seal, and therefore it is a condition of this approval that the applicant submit a stamped and sealed site plan that conforms in all respects to the above referenced site plan and condition number one of this resolution. Number three, any well installed on the property shall only have a total volume of 1 horsepower or less than 24 gallons per minute to reduce the draw on the sensitive aquifer. I'm going to stop there. Usually we require a 5-gallon per minute pump.
This is in the covenant that's on the deed for the.
Oh, it
This
is.
is the language that we went with, yeah.
It is, okay,
Yes.
all right. Any work or disturbance and storage of construction materials shall be confined to the limit of clearing or ground disturbance shown on the approved plans. The town board and/or its designee reserves the right to require additional native vegetation, revegetation, and/or other restoration measures in the event that upon final inspection, a finding is made that the goals of establishing a contiguous, healthy cover of native or natural vegetation within the designated or revegetation areas have not been achieved. Number 6, a final wetland inspection shall be applied for and obtained upon completion of all permitted activities. In the event that the town or its designee determines that the property is not in compliance with all the terms and conditions of this permit, the applicant shall submit additional applications for a final wetlands inspection. Number 7, 2 copies of a final as-built survey shall be submitted with the required final wetlands inspection. So moved.
Second?
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Brand Dougherty Johnson as a member of the Community Housing Board will expire February 9th, 2026, and whereas Mr. Dougherty Johnson has expressed willingness to continue to serve in said capacity, now therefore be it resolved that Mr. Dougherty Johnson is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Community Housing Board for a term to expire on January 31st, 2031, and be it further resolved that Mr. Dougherty Johnson is hereby designated and appointed as the chairman of the Community Housing Board, and that his term as chairman shall run coterminously with his term of appointment to the board. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Community Housing Board, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Nadine Male is hereby appointed to serve as member of the Community Housing Board for a term to expire on January 31st, 2029. So move.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Community Housing Board, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Matthew McCarthy is hereby appointed to serve as member of the Community Housing Board for a term to expire on January 31, 2029. So moved.
Second, discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was not able to attend the interview for Matthew, so I'm going to abstain on the vote.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
All right.
Whereas the town board of the town of Shelter Island called for a public hearing for the purpose of utilizing water quality improvement funds of $25,000 for the costs associated with the water testing sponsored by the Water Advisory Board. And whereas the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board considers the testing to represent appropriate stewardship and management of the WQI and recommends the funding be drawn from the WQI fund. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on December 22nd, 2025, for all persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to the proposed use, now therefore be it resolved that $25,000 will be utilized from the water quality improvement funds for the water testing provided. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town board organizational meeting held on January 5th, 2026, the town board adopted resolution 2026-51, which designated the town board liaisons to various town committees and boards. And whereas resolution 2026-51 designated a primary and secondary liaison to the Community Housing Board. And whereas the town board wishes to amend the resolution to change the secondary liaison to the Community Housing Board, now therefore be it resolved that resolution 2026-51 is hereby amended to change the secondary liaison to the Community Housing Board from Margaret Larson to Elizabeth Hanley. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas sealed bids were received by the town clerk's office until 3 p.m. on the 9th day of January 2026 for the disposal of municipal solid waste and for equipment to be used for such disposal of municipal solid waste and tires generated in the town of Shelter Island. And whereas bids were received by the Commissioner of Public Works were as follows. Then there's Matatuck Environmental and National Environmental Waste, and they each provided bids for the years of 2026 through 2029. They're available on the website. Whereas it is recommendation of the Commissioner of Public Works that the bid be awarded to Matatuck Environmental. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby award said bid to Matatuck Environmental, the aforementioned prices effective as of February 1st, 2026. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas sealed bids were received by the town clerk's office until 3 PM on the 13th day of January 2026 for the purchase of liquid propane gas for the Shelter Island Town Complex and for number 2 fuel oil for the town of Shelter Island. And whereas bids were received by the Commissioner of Public Works as follows: JW Picozzi for liquid propane gas for 2026, based upon the Mont Belvieu, Texas rack price on the day of delivery, plus a fixed differential of $1.25.9 per gallon. And JW Picozzi for number 2 fuel oil for 2026, based upon the Northville Refining Company's Holtzville Terminal rack price on the day of delivery, plus a fixed differential of 9 cents per gallon. And whereas it is the recommendation of the Commissioner of Public Works that both bids be awarded to JW Picozzi, now therefore be it resolved that the contracts for the purchase of liquid propane gas and for number 2 fuel oil for the calendar year of 2026 are hereby awarded to JW Picozzi, the sole bidder for the aforementioned prices. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Whereas the town board has determined that the community center, 1 Bateman Road, is the best location for conducting elections and early voting on Shelter Island. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute an agreement with the Suffolk County Board of Elections to permit the conduct of elections and early voting at the community center in the year 2026 with an option to renew for the year 2027. So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute a contract with Emily Larson, independent contractor, to provide professional design and document editing services related to the revision of the Town of Shelter Island's comprehensive plan. So moved.
Second. I'm going to have to abstain from this one because she's my sister. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Don't we normally put the price in here?
Aye. Whereas Linda and James Eklund have applied for a rebate from the town of Shelter Island under Chapter 88 of the Shelter Island Town Code to install a low nitrogen sanitary system for property located at 59 South Midway Road, Shelter Island, New York. And whereas the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board has reviewed the project and recommended a conditional rebate of up to $12,000 be awarded, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the findings of the WQIAB and approves the applicant for a conditional rebate of up to $12,000 in eligible costs upon completion of the project and subject to the applicant's compliance with and completion of all terms and conditions of the conditional rebate agreement. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be given to the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board and the Building Department. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention, me.
Resolved that the following 2025 budget modification is hereby approved. $1,812.54 increase to the 2025 A2680 insurance recovery revenue account to be funded by the reimbursement check from NYMIR for claim number TSHI-2025-011-001 and a $1,812.54 increase to the 2025 A3120.400 police maintenance account. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolved that the following 2025 budget transfers are hereby approved. $5,000 from the A1410.111 town clerk overtime and $670 from the A1410.200 town clerk equipment and $607 from the A1410.410 town clerk association of towns and $1,475 from the A1410.484 Town Clerk Office and miscellaneous to the A1680.276 IT equipment to be for unused funds to purchase a 44-inch Context Quattro scanner for the purpose of digitizing documents, and $500 from the A3510.431 Animal Control Veterinarian to the A3120.484 Police Office and miscellaneous to cover outstanding invoices, and $685 from the A3120.491 Police Contracts to the A3120.484 Police Office and miscellaneous to cover outstanding invoices, and $700 from the A3120.400 Police Maintenance to the A3120.200 Police Equipment to cover outstanding invoices. So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
resolved that the 2025 general fund claims numbered 2468 through 2546 in the amount of $129,408.16, and the 2025 highway fund claims numbered 292 through 306 in the amount of $19,972.60, and the 2025 community preservation fund claims number 42, 44, and 45 in the amount of $7,230.77, and the 2025 water quality improvement fund claim numbered 43 in the amount of $19.27 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and that the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of the same. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the 2026 general funds claim number 33 through 119 in the amount of $306,987.65, and the 2026 highway funds claimed number 2 through 24 in the amount of $19,680.67 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of the same. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, at this point, I'd like to adjourn the regular meeting and go into the public hearings. The first public hearing we have is a continuation for 74 Peconic Avenue, the O'Sullivan's Wetlands application. I see Matt is on.
Yes, I'm here, as well as the property owners on here on Zoom as well.
Wonderful. The document that we were waiting on from the last meeting was the construction plan for how you were going to dig out the basement, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you want to review that, we did receive it.
Okay, yeah, no problem. We had submitted that to the town on the 19th. I submitted it to the supervisor as well as the town engineer and the building department. Basically what it is, it's a very straightforward design protocol for how we are going to access the basement, both the existing basement area and the crawl space area that will become basement. We go into detail on how we're going to provide an access way to that area, how we're going to open up the stem wall, which is the outer wall that's underneath the outer wall of the house, excavate into it. Once we're underneath the building, how we're going to excavate the material out from underneath, shore up the building underneath, and then basically work our way back out toward the road. Also included a couple of photographs of the basement, both of the crawl space and of the basement area as it is now. So you can, it's clear to see with those photographs that the building is in very good shape. There are no concerns with respect to rot, bug damage, things along those lines. It's a solid building, and between my evaluation and Pam Pospisil's evaluation, we don't have any concerns about this building not being able to adequately take these improvements.
I mean, what was that last bit? Sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, both I've looked at the building and Pam Pospisil, the architect. And with both of us looking at it and looking at the condition of the existing construction, there are no concerns about this building not being able to get the renovations that we're planning on doing for the building.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I know that Teresa had some questions. As you excavate underneath the basement, how will you, what are you planning on doing with the soils? Are you planning on trying to store them on site, or are you going to truck them off?
That we'll store some on site in the area where the future septic system is going to be, up in that corner. There's going to be a lot of soil coming out of there, so what we can store on site, we will. What we can't, we'll haul off site, and they can contract with, there's a couple of different soil yards on the island where they can store excavated materials.
And then another question that Teresa had brought up was, are you sure that the first floor studs can support the second story?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions for Matt?
I think it's just the ones from Teresa.
Okay.
And just something on the studs, not specific to this property, but in general, that question does come up a lot. If you've got an older house that's got 2x4 stud walls and you want to put a second floor on it, there's nothing wrong with doing that. One of the reasons why they want you to go to 2x6 stud walls is more for insulation purposes. And you can use fiberglass bats as opposed to using spray foam or another type of insulation. It's 6 one way, half dozen the other, as far as how you get to that insulation value to meet the energy code. It's easier, it's less expensive to use fiberglass bats, but it's just a different way of doing the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Does anybody else have a question on this application?
I do not.
Does everybody feel comfortable closing this hearing?
I do.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
We keep it open, just if anybody has any comment from the public, they can send in 2 weeks.
I mean, I feel like,
Sometimes people want to respond and send something in. We've closed it.
yeah.
Okay.
I would ask, if you're going to keep it open for written correspondence, that it be a short enough window that there can be at least 1 or 2 work session discussions prior to the next hearing for a vote.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay closing it without public comment. It's been open for a couple months. You know, the people have, I mean, otherwise maybe a week.
A week for
All right.
public.
We'll leave it, okay. So
Thank you,
we'll
I
close
appreciate
it for public comment. Do I make that motion?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
The next one we have is 31B Dickerson Drive, Russ Coxey Coleman. This is also a continuation of the prior hearing. What we were waiting on for this application was a ruling from our town attorney on the interpretation for the covenant regarding the deck. Thomas, do you want to just go over briefly?
Yeah, there was a question whether or not the plan that's drawn up violated a covenant that was in place on their prior approval. And I looked at the covenant, I looked at the plans, basically because they're removing the entire deck and replacing, that covenant would no longer be in effect. Had a discussion with Reed and Rick, who's the planning board attorney, and the planning board kind of raised this issue to start with. We were all in agreement that that was accurate. So, you know, basically the net result is that the plan as proposed do not violate that covenant, because the covenant would go away in effect once the deck is removed.
Okay.
That was just the last thing that we were waiting for,
That
right?
was, yeah,
To
that was the
close it?
last thing that we were waiting for to close it. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? They are online. If not, then we're prepared to close this hearing.
Yes.
Make a motion to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I am going to abstain
Okay.
Okay.
because I'm in a decision-making position on something else in their lives.
Okay, good.
I'm just gonna step aside.
All right, so that is, we'll close that hearing and move on to the next one,
All right. Look at us.
which is the public hearing for 2 Charlie's Lane, the Daytona dock. Shall we want to read the notice because it's being reopened?
At 6:02 PM prevailing time on the application of XV Property LLC, care of Harry and Kathy Tetonis, 2 Charlie's Lane, to remove 16 piles and 192 square feet off of the seaward end of the stationary dock, construct a 4-foot by 6-foot platform with a 3-foot by 12-foot aluminum ramp leading onto a 5-foot by 40-foot floating dock secured with 2 anchor piles, supply and install 4 tie-off piles, and add 6 fender piles as per plan submitted by Costello Marine, last revised 6/24/24 and approved by the DEC 11/19/24.
Thank you. Jack, I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay. This is a hearing that we've had before. I'd just like to point out that this originally was approved by the WMAC at a vote of 5-2. It was also approved by this board at a vote of 3-1. You know, Gordon's no longer here. Ben recused himself. Albert was opposed. It was the amount, then it came to a situation where there were certain aspects of the code that were brought up, and this was relooked at. You know, this is a pre-existing non-conforming dock. And the way I read the code, there just has to be a overall reduction. There can't be any further improvement on the docks. So what we did is we removed additional piling from the dock to have a net reduction in the piling. And what we did was we made the float seasonal, and we made the float down to 192 square feet to meet the square footage we were taking out, and removed 8 piling. And like I said, originally this, Ben and Harry, Mr. Tetonis is here tonight to represent himself. But like I said, this is going through these things already until parts of the code that I don't think are applicable to this pre-existing non-conforming dock that's been there longer than any of us have been here. It's a very old dock and historic on the island. So I'll let Harry take the floor. And this is not increasing the dock, it's a slight decrease, but it's making the dock safer. I mean, there's young kids, elderly people that want to just get onto the dock safer. And also this float is seasonal, it's only going to be there 6-7 months out of the year, where what's there now is, creosoted or CCA piling that are going to be removed from the habitat. And then also the area of shading is only going to be there for, like I said, 6 to 7 months out of the year. So I feel it's a fair reduction and just a safer way for the applicant to get his grandkids and parents onto the boat. We all know where it is. And like I said, this was approved by both aspects of this process at one point. But then certain aspects of the code were brought up that I don't feel apply to this application. And I think you should go back and look at what you voted on and approved. And that's what we're requesting you do. And, like I said, this has gone on for quite some time. And I'll let Harry speak for the rest of it. Thank you.
It looks like there's a lot fewer people today than during the summer. The sun showed up and there's like waiting room outside, and now there's nobody here.
Please state your name for the record, please.
Yes, thank you, Harry Tetonis. And it's a little bit colder in the summer too. Yes.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I think Jack captured it. I think we tried to make sure that this is consistent with the regulations. We've met the regulations, got approved. And then I looked on, the closed hearing where it kind of revisited and came out. I looked at it because it was video recorded. And there were a bunch of questions brought up during the thing, and the decision made to overturn it, but nobody bothered to check those questions. So like, for example, they said, well, why do they need a larger dock? There's plenty of water because the dock is so long. Well, there isn't plenty of water. So somebody asked in the recording, is there, how large is his boat? I said, well, we don't know. We assume that it's gonna fit. Well, the boat is 42 feet. And if you shorten the dock, beyond what is recommended or short of the original dock or the platform, then there's no more water there, okay? The reason why the dock is so long is because the water drops off, and I have pictures and I measured the dock. So, and then there was a question that was asked to the attorney for the town, and said, what is a proper give up? Although that shouldn't apply, and the attorney's reply was, well, they have to give up something more than they're asking, which we did, but there was no definition, you have to give up, X amount of feet. So I think it was revisited, and after both votes taken back, because the facts were not well known. And the last comment I have is, I finally have one grandchild, she was just born 10 months ago, so, but I'm not even thinking about grandchildren, parents, elderly. The boat is a Hinckley 42-foot boat, and at high water, there's almost impossible to get onto the boat from the dock. So you have to climb up and come down. At low water, you're making a big jump. I don't have a problem doing that, but my wife has a harder time doing it. Certainly my parents have a harder time doing it, and then large kids have. And last year, we did have our 16-year-old dog try to do it, and he missed it and fell in the water. So hopefully no adult has done that. So we're trying to do that from a safety reason as opposed to doing anything else. And then that's all I have.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for the applicant?
Did you question that?
No, I think the WMAC is meeting next Monday. And I just think it would be good to just have them look at it one last time. They haven't looked at it. They have looked at it, but I think to have it go back Monday, it's 1 week for the meeting Monday, and just review it, that's all. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
And I'd like to note that there are two people on our street who, at least one of them has, used to be part of the WMAC, who also wrote twice in favor of what we're doing. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, you should have a letter on record from Peter Reich. And, Peter came and looked at this project, and he wanted to be here tonight, he's sick. He is back from his boat trip, but he's in bed from, I guess, all the travel. So he resent the letter today in support of this application.
okay,
You got it.
all right, we have it.
I believe this application that we have is the same one that the WMAC ruled on originally. So I don't think there's any changes in the application from the time they've seen it to the time we've seen it.
There's no changes in the application.
The question with the WMAC was the code. Like I said, this is the original application that they approved 5-2. I don't remember exactly who opposed to, but it was, the guys that came to the site, like, James and Skylar actually physically met me on site. And when you're on site, you can see that it's a significant reduction, especially when all the square footage of the structure is being removed for a half the year. And like I said, I was there at the meeting, and there wasn't like strong opposition to this. It went through, and this is what was approved. The problem that they had was afterwards was deciphering the code, which is now, that isn't applicable to this situation, considering it's a pre-existing non-conforming. All there has to do is a simple, simply look at this, and I don't think they've seen it already. And they've seen it, for quite some time. And then even after it was approved, they revisited it again. So to have them revisit it again one more time seems like.
I wasn't there for that. They revisited at another meeting?
Well, that's when they sent the letter in afterwards. After they had approved it, they re-looked at it themselves, and that's when you got the letter questioning the code. But I don't think that code is applicable to this situation. So to go back to them again after an approval and after they send their letter in, I think that at this point, the deciphering of the code and what applies to this particular application is on you guys. I don't think at this point it's up to them, because for the merits of this pre-existing non-conforming being altered, they voted in favor of 5-2, and I think they should stick to that. And at this point, if they are questioning the code, I think it should be for the attorney and you guys to answer those questions. I don't think it should go back to an advisory committee to decipher that code. I think that's
There was,
I'm sorry.
at that meeting, the first meeting when they took this up, Jack, there was a lot of misunderstanding, I think, about what really was proposed. I think a lot of people felt that they looked for a serious reduction in the nonconformity of a dock that's non-conforming. And they didn't feel that there was enough reduction in this dock. It's 237 feet long. And plus you're adding, what you're adding now, a 40-foot float and a ramp and an extension. That's all. I don't think it's the worst thing to put it back to the committee and let them vet it. That's all. The meeting's Monday.
Right, but like I said, I feel they've had fair time to look at this, and they actually did look at it after they already approved it, which was kind of,
So
I mean,
some of the questions that came up at in our discussion when we were talking about this was, it had come up a suggestion to shorten the dock and shorten the float. I think it was by 10 feet or 12 feet or something. So then the question that we had was, the boat that you have, will it still fit on the dock if the town board were to shorten it? That was the question that came up about the boat. So I guess that's the question. Like,
The answer to that is, it's a 42-foot boat. We've already agreed to go the floating dock from 40 to 38.
mhm,
Then the request was, which would work. Then the question was to shorten the original dock further by 8 feet, was it?
7 feet.
something like that, okay.
7 feet. If you shorten the original dock by 7 feet, then you're moving the floating dock 7 feet beyond that. So when I went out there and measured, there's not enough water. Certainly for, on high tide, there would be enough water. But on low tide, there's not enough water for the boat to leave.
It would push it beyond the
Beyond.
2.5 feet down into less than 2.5 feet.
Right now, when in its low tide, I go out there and I've measured it, I have less than a foot. And I have to leave the dock with the engines out, which when you have, during the summer, prevailing south winds, it gets very difficult to do so. But then, look, I can manage to do that. But then if I move it back 7 feet, there would be not enough water for me to use that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That answers one of the questions that had come up. That's helpful. Does anybody else have a question for the applicant? I don't. I don't feel a need for it to get sent back to the WMAC. I think that they've reviewed it and we have their recommendation. I don't know how, I understand, Albert, you want to send it back. Right?
I don't think it's the worst thing. It's Monday, this coming Monday.
Well, I'm sorry.
Like I said, this is a bit of a tough one for me because I recused myself in the beginning because I had decision-making power over something else they were doing in their lives. And, but since then I have been following this. And it is another week, but then again, what we're really talking about is having the dock be operable in one way and then inoperable in another way.
Yeah.
So can we close it with waiting for a letter from, or correspondence from WMAC?
Well, with a newbie question here, so, I mean, is your question to the committee of just like what code, that was the original thing that came up, is like, is your question to them to just be like, what code we should be looking, or like, what feedback are you hoping?
The WMAC has, they look to get a reduction and a nonconformity on the dock.
Yep.
And especially a dock that's 237 feet long. When you can have like 100 or 150 foot dock, now it's substantially longer. I realize the water situation, but that's how they've looked at things in the past. Okay, a serious reduction in nonconformity.
So are you looking, I did, just for me to like understand, so you're looking to send it back to them
Just to consider.
to
Just to
potentially
consider
get another?
Once again, I don't think they really understood what was being proposed, Jack. I don't. I don't. You know, that you were taking the platforms off the end of the dock, but the dock was remaining the same length. And then you were putting down a 45-foot float with a ramp and then an extension off the, which
There
is.
was no extension.
The floats, we reduced it from 40, it was 40 feet the original.
I'm saying the original application, that's what, oh, 40, okay, with the ramp and then the extension on the dock to hold the ramp down to the float, which looks like a real increase in the size of the dock.
No, it isn't. It may be.
But it's not longer, but you're adding more structure. I know now you're taking the platforms off the end and the pilings and you're
Yeah,
adding
I get it.
less
No, I
pilings,
understand.
but
As long as you don't think that it's
no,
extended.
no,
Okay.
no, I understand that. That's all.
But like I said, the reason.
But I'm not going to stand in the way. If you want to move forward, move
Because I
forward.
think it's, I don't want to keep saying this thing, we've done this a bunch of times already.
Yeah.
But I think it might be a code issue that they had,
Yeah.
when you received the letter afterwards, it was a code issue. It shouldn't go back to them to interpret the code.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I don't think it's.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel okay with closing it. I hear what you're saying, Albert, but I think I
I would want it to go back to the WMAC. I don't think they fully understood at the meeting what was proposed and what they were looking at. I really don't. It was the end of the meeting. It was a long meeting. They were kind of wrapping up. I think the guys they were done.
Okay.
That's all. But if it's, we don't want to do it, we don't do it. I mean,
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to close the hearing and not send it back to the WMAC, just
I'll
discuss it in
second
work
it.
session and.
So you leave this to me, the guy who originally recused himself.
Sorry. And we have a report from the WMAC, you know, I think they understood the application.
you weren't there, Meg.
No, but I did watch the meeting.
Okay.
Is there a way
Sorry,
to?
We could leave it open to written
Close this with-
correspondence, but it just,
I wouldn't mind hearing from the WMAC, just to say like, and not about the code. It's really about reducing the nonconformity. But we don't want to put ourselves in a position where it gets reduced to the point where you can't use a stock.
well, okay, but here's the other thing, though. I don't think it's fair to keep kicking things back and forth between committees and the board, committees and the board, committees and the board. Once we receive a written ruling from the committee, I think it's now on the town board's plate to make the decision, not keep kicking it back. Otherwise, we just have the WMAC make all the decisions. So I feel
wouldn't
like
it be for
that's,
us to, if we were, like, let's say if there were gonna, and again, new girl here, but if there was gonna be a change made to the thing, wouldn't we make it, not the
yes.
committee?
Yeah.
Right?
We would. Yep. They're an advisory board.
Right.
I mean,
No. Let's close this and get on with our lives.
Okay. All right, so Elizabeth Benjamin and I voted yes to close the hearing. Albert voted no. All right. Thank you.
Guys, have a good night.
You too. All right, and then our last public hearing of the evening is for Siegel Road Panel to Clark Creek dredging. LB,
At 6:06 PM prevailing time on the application Shorewood Farms, Inc., care of Steve Levy, to perform a maintenance dredge as per DEC permit number 1-4732-00039-00015 to dredge the entrance channel of Clark Creek to a depth of -6 foot mean low water resulting of approximately 1,000 cubic yards of sandy spoil will be trucked off-site as per plans by Costello Marine dated 7/11/22 and approved by DEC 12/8/2022.
So this is a maintenance dredge. We've done this one before. It's down by South Ferry. It's the creek right next to
Okay.
South Ferry. And what happens is the entrance to that fills in and then nobody can get through. So this is a maintenance dredge. So pretty much if anybody has any questions or anything they need from the applicant.
Jack, have you done this before?
Yes,
Well, how often do you do it?
every couple of years.
Every couple of years,
Yeah.
2 years? Yeah. I mean, it fills in.
Yeah.
Has there been a problem with this dredge, like the one right up the coast?
No, we haven't had a problem. This one has like a bulkheaded area where most of the spoils go. So it kind of has a designated area that's been established and we haven't had any complaints from any of the neighbors in the past.
Okay.
So. Anybody,
Nope.
everybody good?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Then I make a motion to close the hearing on the Siegel Road Channel to Clark Creek dredging application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So many seconds.
All right,
So many
thank you.
seconds.
Is there any public comment? Seeing any hands? I'm going to make a motion that we close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.